Welcome to the Picky Girl Travels podcast, the show for Black women who want more out of life and to live it as they see fit. The message here is all about defying convention, embracing adventure, and regretting absolutely nothing. I am your host, Adelia Borshade of PickyGirlTravelsTheWorld.com. Um, my guest today is no stranger to most of you. She was a guest here on the podcast 2 years ago, talking about the first Exodus Summit, the premier event for Black women who want to take a sabbatical or move abroad. You all know Stephanie Perry. Um, do you realize that it is almost exactly 2 years to the date when I interviewed you for the podcast the first time?
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
No, I did not.
I had just gotten back to Mexico City and I hadn't moved into this apartment yet. I was like a couple of days
Oh,
away. So it was like sometime in the first week in August.
time flies. Good grief.
So I know that anybody watching this right now, of course, recognizes you uh, from your very, very popular YouTube channel. But as we were just saying, you were a guest on this podcast almost exactly 2 years ago. And we talked about you choosing happiness,
Yes.
because this podcast is all about Black women living life on their terms, living the life that they want to lead, and what that looks like for them.
Yes.
So, what have you been up to the last 2 years?
I've been doing a little of the same, right? Still house sitting around, still bopping around, but I've also been working towards the next version of me, right? I got to live my dream. I get to live my dream of traveling wherever and staying there as long as I feel like it, right? That was level one dream life, right? I found a way to support myself and be where I want to be for as long as I want to be there. And so I've been working on what's next for me now that I can do this, right? Where do I move next? Who do I become next? Who do I want to evolve into so that I don't feel like I'm stuck or start to feel regretful, you know, yeah, start to feel like regretful what I don't want is I don't want to end up regretting not doing things. So what can I do now to make sure that I'm not going to end up in a place of regret on my last day?
I'm on that same page. That's
Yeah.
often how I decide whether to say yes to something or not. Because if there is the chance that I might regret it, then I have to think long and hard about passing it up. Now, what I find really interesting about you and about your story is it is similar to mine in that kind of for the first 40 years of your life, this is not how you were living.
No, I guess from like 20 to 40, 20 to 41, I just my life just became accumulation of the things that I didn't have. And I was just replaying all day, constantly in my mind. Here are the things I don't have. Here are the things that I will never get. Here are my failures. Here are my losses, right? I was just a bundle of loss. And I thought that that was just how it was going to be, right? My life is just, I'm just a person who has had this loss and that loss, and who is never going to get these things that people who I thought that I was not deserving of, I guess, right? I was never going to get these things. And that's just who I am. That's just my life. And like, I spent 20 years and the good years too, like the good, not that being 48 doesn't feel good. I feel good at 48. But I mean, from 20, probably 22 to 41, my life was about the losses, and I thought that that was just how it was going to be. I didn't know that there was going to be anything new for me. And so I didn't even try. Didn't even try.
Well, we live in a system in the US very much particularly for women. You are those accomplishments, and if you don't have them, you are absolutely less than. And often, if you haven't checked the box, you haven't achieved, quote unquote, the goal that a woman your age is supposed to want, we're taught that the problem is with you, that you somehow have a deficit, or you're non-functioning, or what have you.
That's right. That's right. And the problem is with you. And right. Oh, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You're stuck on a track. I'm sorry. I'm house sitting. I moved the squeaky toy. They found another one. I'm sorry. I'm dog sitting. Yeah. That not only that the problem is with you, but oh, well, right. Just deal with it. It is what it is. Right.
It is what it is. Very much American culture is ageist. And there is, according to the culture that both you and I grew up in, there is a short shelf life for women, and there is a specific time at which you're supposed to achieve these certain things. And if you don't do it in that time frame, oh well.
That's right. That's why I don't interview. No offense to the 20 somethings and 30 somethings, but I try my hardest not to interview 20 somethings on my channel, because they say stuff like, I'm 28 and I want to move abroad. Is it too late? Oh my gosh. I just want to shake them. I can't stand it. But I guess I thought that too, maybe.
You did.
I'm like, don't y'all know any 40-year-olds? You're telling me you have gone through life and you didn't realize that you would live past 40. You don't know any 40-year-olds. You don't know one 50-year-old. You've never met a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old or an 80-year-old or a 90-year-old or a 100-year-old in your whole life.
I never thought about getting older than 25. Literally. And when I turned 27, that was the first of several, like, I don't know if we want to call them crises or what, but like 27 hit me hard, and I could not put my finger on it. And one day I did realize, like, I never gave any thought to what my life would look like beyond 25. So
Okay.
I can see some of that.
Yeah.
But okay, so you mentioned that, for a good 20-year span there, what is considered to be supposedly the most productive and important years of our lives, blah blah blah, because you can tell I don't buy into that. You suffered a lot of losses, and I have known you in your 40s,
Yeah.
and so it's very hard for me to imagine that.
Yeah.
Can you identify what changed, how you made that transition away from focusing on the so-called failures and getting a different outlook?
So, frankly, I just saw enough people who I went to school with or who were my age die. And I realized, listen, I got to snap out of it because I'm alive, right? I saw enough former classmates and friends and family and relatives die. And one day I was just like, you actually are alive, right? Right. As long as you're alive, you can make a change. You can do something new, right? Started with small things. I became a runner in my 30s, right? It started with small things. And I was like, oh, I can actually change. I can actually try new things. I can become a new person. I can take control of my life. I don't know that I really ever felt agency over myself. I just felt like I was drifting along, like with the current. And at one point, I was just like, oh, I can swim, right? I don't have to go where the current is pushing me. I can swim there, figuratively.
But what you're saying right there, I also identify with. This is not something I figured out until later, but I try to live my life now with intention. I make choices intentionally. That was not how I lived the first 40 years of my life, because I didn't necessarily feel also like I had agency. It was more like I handled whatever life threw at me, and I tried to make the best of whatever situation I found myself in. But like there are very few things, big things in my life I can think about where I made a specific choice to do that. So you started running, and what other kind of little changes do you remember?
Yeah, I started running. I joined like a meetup for filmmakers, even though I had not made a film, I had not written anything. In my future life, I will be a writer, right? So I joined some writing groups and just hung out with people who were doing the things that they wanted, who had a vision for their life and were doing that, right? And then the most important thing is that I started making travel a real priority in my life. For me, travel is the thing. Travel is what makes me feel like me, right? Travel is when I feel like myself. So I started making travel a priority, even when it was just, I can only take a 5-day vacation in this block. Those were the first steps that I took, and then longer travel. Once I quit my job to travel for a year, it was on, right. Once I could achieve that, even before I got out the door, once I got to the point where I could get on that flight, you couldn't tell me anything. There's nothing I can't do, because that was like mission impossible to me.
No, it absolutely was. I think the world that we live in now was different than the world then, even though that was what, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And somebody saying, yes, I quit my job to travel the world, doesn't quite raise the eyebrows
Yeah.
that it raised then. And no, I can only imagine how doing that completely shifts your worldview about what is possible and what you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you were here last time, we talked about at 41, you quit your job, you travel the world for a year. Um, and that is something, there are people who would be 40 and think, that's not something I can do at this age.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not even something I can do when I'm retired in my 60s. Um, After that, you sort of gave up on 9 to 5 life.
No more. Yes, jobs. I have detached myself from job culture, right? Not only did I give up hustle, I don't know that I was ever in on hustle culture, but not only have I rejected hustle culture, I reject job culture. I don't want a job to be the center of my life and then try to do other things that fit in there. I don't want the job to be the main important factor in my life. I don't want it. Y'all can have it.
And I mean, again, you're doing this in your 40s, because I think about the women who watch this podcast or who listen to this podcast. The age kind of skews to our age, a lot of Gen Xers who are thinking like,
Yeah.
that's great for her,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't possibly do that.
Mm-hmm.
You became an entrepreneur multiple times over in your 40s.
Yeah. Without any like background, without any like uh advantage that would make it easier for me. Yeah. Except my parents. I do have wonderful parents. Hi, mom and dad.
Well, well, yes, we're not going to downplay having the advantage of having that, but I guess I'm very much stuck on and trying to figure out what I can say to those women who feel like I wanted those things too, but I'm past that point in my life.
Yeah. Listen, how much of your life do you want to give up to? At some point, you're going to come to the realization that, oh, I still want this thing. And now it's time for me to try to work on it. So how much of your life do you want to give into this middle phase of like apathy, or of like, well, I can't even try, right? You might as well snap out of it today, because at some point it's still going to come back to you, right? As long as you have breath in your body, those things that you want for yourself, they're going to keep rearing their heads, right? So how long do you want to keep putting it off? How long do you want to keep talking yourself out of it before you just finally go? If this was a third party, if this was another person and you heard her say the things that you say to yourself, right? What would you tell her? You would tell her, girl, do it, right? Time is not on anybody's side. Not to be, time is not on our side. So let's live.
I actually think we should be that. I
Mm.
think, because I feel like you were going to say, like not to be morbid, but I actually think more people could benefit if they contemplated their own death more often.
I agree.
Because like you, for me, that was the thing. I looked around and was like, if I died tomorrow, is this the mark I wanted to make? Is this the life that I would have wanted to live? Is this what I want people to remember about me? And the answer to that question was no.
Mhm.
And so I had to figure out how to start living the life I wanted in however much time I had left, because we don't know. Now, somebody looking at you from the outside could say, okay, traveling, starting businesses, living this house sitter life. Okay, that's cool. But one of the things that you have mentioned that you want to do is you want to become a mother.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of women who would be like, well, yeah, all that other stuff y'all said, I can see that, but you're 48 and you still like, this is something you are still pursuing.
I'm telling, this is how I know that those things, those desires in you, they keep that fire is still in there. It might just be a smolder today, but at some point that it's going to erupt again into a full on fire. Yeah, I know. I've always known that I wanted to be a mother. I lost a child at in my early 20s. But I always knew, like when I would talk to girlfriends, some of my girlfriends would be like, girl, no, I don't want to. I have a girlfriend who's a teacher. She was always like, no. And I'd be like, yes, me, yes, right. I always knew it was something I wanted. But as we've discussed, for the 20s, 30s, and early 40s, I just thought, oh, well, I missed it, right? Not only did not, I didn't think I missed it. I thought I didn't earn it, or I don't deserve it, or I'm being punished. For a good part of my life, I thought that me being without children was a punishment for something. I don't know for what really, but yeah. And then once I decided to stop punishing myself for whatever, I realized that the desire was still there. And then I realized, oh, I can make it happen. Somebody my age or older is becoming a parent today. So if they can do it, so can I. I think that the my greatest revelation in life is that nobody is exceptional. People are not exceptional. They're just people.
There,
They're
and some
people.
people are lucky, but
Like,
it
yes.
is very few people are truly exceptional.
Yeah. Okay. Very few. Simone Biles is exceptional.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, but the people who have the things that you want, they're probably not exceptional. Right. They are people who just had some luck. Maybe they have a community, they have some people around them who can help them. But they're still people. They failed, they've made mistakes, they've cried about the things that they've done wrong. They've had the same experiences that you have. They've just have also gotten the thing. So I decided that I'm gonna get the thing, right? If I want motherhood in this life, I'm gonna have to go after it. It's not gonna at 48, I'm not gonna accidentally become a mother. It's not, that's not happening. But I'm gonna have to be very intentional. You said the word, right? I'm gonna have to be very intentional about creating a life so that this can be my thing.
Now, a lot of women, particularly Black women, are very, being a mother and being partnered with a
Yeah.
man, those two things go together and you do not separate them.
Oh, that's how you see it for Black women? I don't know of a lot of Black women.
I don't know. I don't know, because it's very hard. I often feel like an outsider looking in, because like about I was indifferent about a lot of things and kind of was like, well, maybe I'll have a kid, but I really had no interest in having the man around.
Yeah.
Like, and so when I ended up getting married, I thought it was this magical love story, fairy tale against the odds. It was a load of bullshit. But this is the stuff you think about when you're 19.
Yeah.
So I have never seen those two things together. But in a lot of the conversations I see online, a lot of the comments women make, like, if you're gonna do it right, I guess
Oh, oh,
you're gonna have a man and then you have a baby,
that's just
and
Christianity.
you have to be married and all of that.
That's just Christianity. Yeah. Now, uh, in my world, right? The two things don't go together. They don't go hand in hand. I've got plenty of girlfriends and family members who are mothers who never, ever, ever had a committed long-term relationship with a male partner. So I don't feel like the two go hand in hand either. When I say I want a family, I mean I want motherhood. I want alimony more than I want a husband. So
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. But I was also going to ask because you have publicly expressed a desire to be partnered
yeah,
in some way.
yeah.
And are you concerned at all that your desire for motherhood at this stage in your life may conflict with that?
Yes, and I'm clear on which one comes first, right? Right. I'm gonna be a mother. Okay. If he don't like it, goodbye, sir. Right. I'm fine. That is why, and maybe it's me just putting words in a person's mouth who doesn't even exist yet, or who isn't even in my life yet. But yeah, I'm fine with knowing that I may not get both. Who knows? I may stumble onto a COVID widow who has small children, and I get everything I want. Right? He may be a widower, right? A COVID widower with a yacht and small kids, dreams come true all at one time. But if not, I know what my priorities are. I want motherhood more than I want wifehood, because as an American woman, right, being a wife is not super appealing.
No, it is absolutely not.
I'm a house sitter. I've lived in a lot or stayed in a lot of people's houses for periods of time. And that imbalance of responsibilities is tremendous. There's a tremendous gap. And so, and most likely, if I were to get married, I would probably marry another American person, another American man, and I would be in that same imbalanced relationship. I don't want that. So I would be okay. I would not face a life of regret or a future of regret if I didn't have a partner, a long-term partner, a spouse, a husband, whatever. But I would if I was never a mother. I know those two things.
And I think that's important what you just said, um, because I'm assuming something internal told you like, okay, I would be okay with this, but I would not be okay with that. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I've learned over the last 7 years is to listen to that inner voice, because that's really how you feel. That's really what you want.
It's
And
in there. We just don't get enough time to listen, right? We're busy. We work all the time. We don't get enough free time. I've built a whole life full of free time where I get to just hear what's going on in my brain, right? The good and the bad. And so I know I have the gift of clarity about my own life. I know what I want. And I'm so appreciative for that, because I didn't even know that that was a thing before, right? I
I
didn't even
didn't
know that.
either. I
Yeah.
didn't either. And I have come to believe that women are actively discouraged
Yeah.
from listening to that,
Yes.
because think about all the times when a woman has this feeling or what have you and she voices it, and people are very quick to be like, oh, you being silly, you
Mhm.
being crazy, like that doesn't make any sense. So no, I very much feel that way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so because you just turned 48
Yes.
and you are going to pursue motherhood, and like you said, you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
How are you being intentional?
I have decided to move to Costa Rica because Costa Rica is the place that gives me the best chance at adoption at my age and being a single woman. I could adopt. There are some places around the world where you can adopt at my age, but not single, right? There are some places where you can adopt single, but not at my age. There are some places where you can adopt single at my age, but not a Black child. You probably wouldn't get a Black or even a brown kid, right? So Costa Rica gives me the best chance. So I'm out of here. I'm moving to Costa Rica. I will have some kind of home in Costa Rica by this winter.
You're the second guest that I have spoken to who moved to Costa Rica, is moving to Costa Rica specifically for that.
Yeah.
She is in her 40s and she wants to adopt a child, and she's like, "That's why I'm in Costa Rica."
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, so the part about being intentional isn't just like, it's not just the clarity, but you have to put some action behind it, right? I want to make sure that I give myself the best odds. I'm a believer in being open to things however they come, right? So listen, hello, Rich Whitterer with a yacht and small children. I am available, okay? But I'm going to make sure that I at least give myself the best chance, the best odds, put myself in a position where luck can take over because I'm okay with that too. Yeah, I think Costa Rica is just a good option for women like us. I hope maybe I'll holler at her so we can be adoption buddies.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
we can adopt some siblings because I only want one. That's the problem with adoption, right? A lot of the available children are family units, are more is more than one, and that's a whole different concern. Yeah, yeah,
It, is it important to you that it be a Black or a brown child?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I can't imagine. So I know people who do it. Shonda Rhimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adopted. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine. Part of it, I think, is just that I'm vain. And I still want a kid who looks like me, and I can get a kid who looks like me because I just have a regular Black girl face. So it's totally possible. It's totally possible. But also, there are Black kids, there are Black and brown kids who need homes. And so I don't feel like I need to cut that possibility out, right? Like I said, I'm willing to cut some things out. I'm willing to cut a husband out. I'm willing to cut some things out, but that's not a concession that I'm willing to make personally.
I don't believe this. I don't think this, but if there's probably somebody watching this thinking, but there's so many Black children in the system in the US that could use somebody like you as a mom.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. The US is just more, it's not going to be as, okay, so I like to do as little as possible. Okay, that's how I run my whole life. I want to do as little as possible. In the US, it's going to require me to get a home in the US that's going to be a lot more expensive. Even though Costa Rica is not super cheap, Costa Rica is not a place where it's not like a bargain basement price place, but I can get a home in Costa Rica for less than I can get a home in even Dover, Delaware. My parents live in Dover. Even a 2-bedroom apartment in Delaware is going to cost me more than it would in San Jose, Costa Rica. And then the process is just so much more tedious, laborious, time consuming. Um, but it's still a possibility. I don't have a home in the US. Okay, so that's problem number one in terms of an agency saying yes. I don't have a home in the US. To make a home in the US, it would cost me a lot more and take me more time than to create a home in Costa Rica.
Have you looked at what how the cost of the actual adoption process
Yeah.
compares between the two?
Yeah, so I have not gotten good info on Costa Rica's cost of adoption, right? Because you see people adopting from the US going down to Costa Rica to adopt who don't live in Costa Rica. I hopefully will have residency in Costa Rica and things will be different for me. In the US, honestly, if I adopted out of foster care in the state of Delaware, I could basically do it for almost nothing, right? If you in the state of Delaware, if you adopt a kid who's in foster care, particularly a kid over, I think 2 or 4 years old, the state of Delaware reimburses you all the fees and, or not all, but a majority. So it could be less expensive in Delaware, but much longer process. And I don't know that Delaware would approve me because in Delaware, I'm not a person with money, right? In I have, even though, like I said, Costa Rica is not a bargain basement place. In Costa Rica, I would be classified as a person who is financially capable of taking care of a child. In the state of Delaware, I don't know. I don't know.
Do
Yeah.
you have a timeline?
No, I need residency in Costa Rica. Then I need to set up a place where I live before I can get started on anything. I'm giving myself 2 or 3 years. I think that's probably sounds realistic. In the US, it would probably be more like 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in Costa Rica, we're talking probably 2, 3 years. Time moves so fast, right?
It
So,
does. It does.
that might seem like a long time, but it's not very long. But maybe within the next 3 years, hopefully, I will be a person who has another person in my life who I take care of.
And so, what do you envision life looking like then?
I think that I would probably leave Costa Rica and raise my kid somewhere else. Right. Once Costa Rica gives me the okay to leave the country, right? Once this is my child now, and you can leave the country with this child, I would probably want to raise the my family someplace else. I really like the Netherlands, right? I really like the Netherlands. I'd like to raise a family in a place. I'd like to also be intentional about where I raise my family, right? So the US is probably 100% out of the picture. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what would make me, with all options. This is not an accusation or, an indictment on people who raised their, I was raised in the US, right? But because I know the options, I can't imagine what would draw me to do that, right? And so when the world is open to you, where would I go? I think the Netherlands is my number one choice, even though the weather is not not on my
No.
side. I would have to make sure that I could get to some warm places pretty regularly in the winter.
Well, you could split your time between the Netherlands and like Curacao
Exactly.
or Bonaire, someplace like that, which is what I'm pretty sure a lot of the Dutch do.
They do. I saw them, right? I spent the winter in Curacao last winter and they were there, all of them. Okay. So they do it. We could do it too. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that life would be a little less boppy, right? I would have a home base. Hopefully, I would still travel. Different kids are different. So hopefully, I would end up with a kid who is good with being gone from home for stretches of time. Hopefully, I'll have a kid who is not school, like older school age, right? Hopefully I'll adopt a kid who is young, either preschool or, elementary school age. And we can go and still do some traveling, still do some seeing of the world without me having to be the teacher. Okay, so as much as I want to be a mom, I don't want to be the school teacher. I don't want to homeschooling. I don't know. I don't think that would work for me. Maybe a tutor, like, right? Let's get some coins and get a private tutor, something else. But a homeschooling mom, I don't think that's in the cards for me. So what I see is a life where I have a home base, where we get to travel regularly, and where we live in a place that we actually love and where we can thrive. Yeah.
And do you have any feelings about becoming a mother in your 50s?
No, because I feel pretty good. I don't feel any type of way. For my grandmother's generation, it was perfectly normal, right? I have aunts who are my mom's age. I mean, cousins. What am I saying? I have cousins who are my mom's age, right? So in that, just until birth control and abortion, until Roe v. Wade, right?
No, you kept having babies.
Until you couldn't. Yeah. So it's not all that unusual, except for we're probably the first generation where this is kind of unusual, right? But for our grandparents, it was perfectly normal to start motherhood at 50, or to become a mother at 50, even if you already had other kids. So in that regard, I don't feel any type of way about it. And I look good. So
I mean, I am so happy for you. My grandmother had my mother at 32. My mother had me at 32. And
uh,
I just remember thinking she was the oldest woman on the planet. And I was like, if I have kids, I'm gonna have them young because I don't want to be old like you. And now I said that, and now I'm thinking like, girl, she was 32.
32.
But so, which is why I'm 47 and somebody's grandma, you
Grandma.
know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh so I'm happy that you feel that way. I'm still struggling wrapping my head around that, but I think that's awesome. And there is definitely a lot to be said about having children when you are older and you know who you are and you understand how the world works, because I would, if I were having children at this age,
Yeah.
I would raise them so much differently than I did because I didn't know who the hell I was at 19 and 20
That's right.
to be
Right.
somebody's mama, you
That's
know?
right. And I have a different perspective on the role of parenting, right? even though I was excited to be pregnant when I was younger, in my early 20s, I was excited for it. Parenting didn't seem like I didn't think about it as parenting. I don't know. I didn't think about what my role was in this person's life um, in the same way that I think about it now. So I think that it's a good time. I wouldn't have designed my life this way, right? I'm not saying I would have always wanted to wait until I was late 40s, early 50s. But now that I'm here, it doesn't seem like that problematic. I think some of the good, there's some bad and there's some good, right? I'm going to need to make sure that I have godparents on deck, right? But there's some bad and there's some good. Maybe I'll be an active grandmother, but I may be a grandmother who's already in the rocking chair, right? There's ups and downs, good and bad, about being this age and just getting started. But I think it balances out. I think I feel like I'm still going into it excited and not like, well, I got to do it. I'm really excited to be moving into this new phase.
Now, speaking of grandparents,
Uh-huh.
what do your parents think, or have they said anything to you? Because there are a lot of folks who, if they were doing this at a younger age, there
Yeah.
would be a lot of pressure of, well, you need to come home. If you
Uh,
bring the baby home, you need to be around family, that sort of thing.
Um, my parents haven't said a whole lot. My dad hasn't said hardly much of anything. My parents they enjoyed being grandparents at a younger age than they are today. And I think that they want to make sure that I understand that they're not going to be the same type of grandparents that they were 20 years ago. I understand that. Um, in terms of me being in another country, I don't think that's a big deal to them because, or not, I don't know. Maybe once an actual child is here, it may be a bigger deal. But in their minds today, it doesn't seem to be that big of a concern. They've never addressed it. I have cousins, I have family members who were military, who lived all over the world and were still close family and still have had and have strong bonds in the family. So I have seen that done really well. I have seen transcontinental or intercontinental families. I've seen that done well enough that I know how to navigate that. And I have some people I can go to if I have some questions, if I need some help on like, how do I make sure that my kid feels like she's a part of this family? I have seen that done and I know who to ask about that kind of stuff. I think mostly it's just that my parents are not they're 20 years older than they were before because when I was pregnant before, it was a very exciting time, and my dad went to Sears and bought the crib and put the crib together for me because I lost my baby late in the pregnancy. And so it was an exciting time for them, and I think that it's going to look and feel very different, but still very good. My parents were foster parents when I was a kid. And so what I don't have to do is overcome a hurdle of this isn't our family, which is something that a lot of people are afraid of when they think about adopting or something or being a stepmom or whatever. I have seen my parents create a family from people who have no blood relation to them. So I have zero concern with that. Zero. My parents, my extended family, I've seen that done again very well. So that's something I don't have to worry about.
Well, it's one thing if somebody's in another country raising a family with the military.
Yeah.
You are on your own
Yeah.
and you're living this unconventional life.
Yeah.
But or are they used to it at this point? Because I know when you first took your sabbatical, they were kind of like, where are you going? Why are you going?
My mom freaked out. Yeah, they're super used to it now. They're used to it. My mom knows how to get on a plane, right? She knows how to get to the place. My dad will come and visit in some places and not others. So we haven't discussed Costa Rica. So hopefully Costa Rica is a place he will come to visit. But they know how to get to me. They're good travelers. I learned traveling from them. They like traveling.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I, I, I don't know if this is on topic or not. I don't even know if we have a topic,
Okay.
but when you think, excuse me, when you think back to, what was it, 2017, 2015,
15 when I quit. Yeah, 15.
could, like, could you have even imagined the life that you have now, the things that you are doing and contemplating doing?
No, no clue. Which is why, really, like women who are like, I don't know what I want in my life, give yourself some free time and try something, try one thing, right? Free time plus trying one thing can really open doors for you. It can change your life. It really did change my life. I had no idea. When I left in 2015 to go travel for a year on savings. My plan was to come back to the US and get a pharmacy technician job in a city where I didn't need a car. Like that was going to be my biggest overhaul, right? I'm going to move to Chicago or someplace and not have a car. That was a big, that was dreaming big. That was a life change, right? That's what I thought was going to happen. Who knew that I would be a person who get like literally I can just pick a place, almost any place. Some place I cannot afford, right? I don't think I can afford Switzerland, but I can pick some place on the map and be like, okay, I'm going to stay here. My tourist visa says I can be here for 90 days. I'm going to be here for 90 days. I didn't know that was a possibility. It just went from one asking myself what the next question, right? I came back and instead of looking for jobs in Chicago, I was like, what are my other travel options, right? How else could I travel with no money? Now that I've spent it all, how can I travel with no money? And then, okay, well, and then how can now I found house sitting, but there's no money in house sitting. You get free accommodation mostly. And then, okay, so how can I parlay that into money? Let's start a YouTube channel. Oh, let's do some coaching. Let's do some things, right? Just asking myself one more question. Like instead of giving in to what I already know, what is something that I could try that's different? That try it and see. And here I am, like a different person, like literally, like not literally, but I am a different person.
No, I'll say literally
Okay.
a different person. Um, were you ever afraid?
All the time, all the time, of everything. We are afraid of everything that we don't know. Anything you haven't done before, you're afraid of it. I was afraid to give my 2 weeks notice. Now I'm a serial job quitter. I've quit many a job, but I was afraid to give my 2 weeks notice to take that first sabbatical. I just couldn't do it the first day. And then I had to go in. I had a supervisor who didn't work. I worked night shift. He didn't work night shift. And so I missed the opportunity to give him my letter. And so I had to go into work 2 hours early just to give him the letter the next day, right? I was afraid to get on the plane. My parents, they dropped me off at the airport, but that was scary. I was excited, but scared. I was afraid. I had two accountability partners, and I told them I was starting a YouTube channel. And every month we would get together and they'd be like, where's your YouTube channel, ma'am? Right? Okay, January, you said you're going to do it. February, you said you're going to, right? Afraid to do that. Everything I've done, I've been afraid of doing. One good thing about me is that I was in the army in my mid 20s, and they did teach you that courage is not the opposite of fear. I think until that point, I always thought that they were opposites.
I
Courage is
think
not
I
the
think
opposite.
that's how we use them that way.
Yes. It's just the next step, right? Courage is just the step after fear. That was a wonderful life lesson, right? And took internalized that. I mean, I took that to heart, right? We don't have to not be afraid of things in order to do things. We're gonna do them afraid. If pregnant women waited until they were not afraid, they would stay pregnant for 80 years, right?
Absolutely. Because the first time I was pregnant, I was like, okay, cool, we're doing this. And then it hit me. I was like, how is this baby going to get out? And, like, we know far more now about maternal mortality issues in the Black community. But I recognized even at 20, I was like, a lot of ladies don't survive this. And I was like very concerned, but by then I was already knocked up. So wasn't a whole lot, but you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. I keep a tally of things that I have done that I was afraid to do, small to big, right? And when I need to, I just replay them. Remember how you were afraid? Remember how you were afraid to buy a house? Remember how you're afraid of your every first day of work is really scary to me, right? Even though I've had a lot of jobs, I've quit a lot of jobs. That first day is really scary, walking into a new place and new people, and you don't know what you're doing, and right. And I did it, and it worked out fine. So I just replay over and over things that I've been scared of, big and small. My
Do you
driver's test, right? I failed
do
my
you
driver's test
still
twice.
get afraid?
Oh, of everything, all the time.
Okay, because I asked this because it would be very easy to look at the woman here today and be like, okay, well, she got it all figured out. Like I'm sure nothing bothers her. And
I'm
she's just brave and, taking the life by the horns.
so yes, I feel maybe I have taken life by the horns. Yes, and I am hanging on for dear life. I am scared of those horns. Those horns can gore you at any second, right? Yes. Yes. I'm afraid of things all the time, from small things like walking into a new house sit and I've never met these people. I've never met these dogs. I'm house sitting two dogs who are pretty big, but they're little babies, right? Right. From small things to big things, I'm afraid of all new things, right? I'm going to offer a new coaching thing. I'm afraid of that. I'm going to do a new meet and greet. I'm afraid of that. I'm going to move to Costa Rica. I'm afraid of that. I'm going to apply for residency. That's really scary. I'm going to get an apartment. I've never gotten an apartment in another country. I've never rented an apartment in my whole life. My dad always just made me buy houses. My dad made me buy a house at 23 or something. And when I went looking for apartments, and back then I want to say it was about $1,100 a month or something.
Yeah, no, back then it was much cheaper to just buy a house.
And he was like, no, you don't. That's right. Buy a house. I've never rented an apartment in my whole life, especially not in another country where I'm not super conversational in the language. I know the food words. That's not going to help me with a realtor, right? I'm afraid of these things, but I'm more afraid of not doing them, right? I'm more afraid of looking back and being like, I didn't miss my chance. I gave it away, right? There's a one thing to miss your chance. It's another thing to just throw it away. I don't want that. I have an obituary. I wrote my obituary. I got to live that stuff out because I don't want people sitting at my funeral talking about who is this about? Who are they talking about? She didn't do none of that stuff. Yes, I'm afraid of all of it all of the time. But I also know that what I want, I have to walk through that door, right? I have to walk through that scary door to get the things that I want. I'm in a house with a bunch of doors and I needed to find the washer and dryer. Okay. So I'm afraid of mannequins. I know it's a weird thing to be afraid of. I'm afraid of mannequins with faces, not store mannequins, but like museum mannequins. My last summer house sit, or one of my last house sits, I opened a door and to the garage and there was Halloween decorations and I couldn't they said you can drive the golf cart. They were in a golf cart community. You can drive the golf cart. I couldn't. I couldn't get the golf cart out of the garage because I was afraid of the mannequins in the garage. Okay. So here I am. I'm opening doors, trying to find the washer and dryer. Like, please, Jesus, no mannequins. Please. And it took me until I couldn't find the washer and dryer the first day because I was afraid to open a door that I was pretty sure was the basement. Turns out it was the washer and dryer. I was afraid to open, like I'm afraid of things all the time, but we got to do them, right? We got to do them. I got to wash my clothes, right? I got to do it.
Well, and that's what I say about, I was just talking about this the other day, that if you let fear, well, first there's the belief that you have to overcome your fear before you can move forward.
Yes.
As we just pointed out, if that's the case, folks would never do anything. And then the other one is, I always look at it like, if I give into the fear, am I giving, what is the cost of what I am giving up that I am saying no to? And most of the time I can't live with that. So I grit my teeth and, plunder through the
Yeah,
best that I can.
suck it up. Yeah. Sometimes we just do have to suck it up. I'm not a team push through person, right? I don't push through a lot of stuff, but fear is a thing that I just do. We have to push through. It's life-changing ability. It's a muscle, right? That's a muscle that you work. The ability to do things even when you're afraid to do them, that is a muscle that you grow. So do it do it as often as you can, and it does make things easier. It doesn't get rid of fear. Fear is always a part of life, but it does make it easier for you to take action the next time and the next time and the next time. It really is a muscle.
Now, on your YouTube channel, you share about house sitting and all of this. Are you going to share your residency, your adoption journey?
So I don't want to turn my channel into an adoption channel, right? I don't want that. And I don't want so I don't think I'm going to share a whole lot. So okay, I'm torn about this too, Adelia, because my channel in its essence, our channels, right, are about living your dreams, living the life that you dream for yourself. And this is something I've been very open about dreaming about for myself. So I do want to share something, definitely the Costa Rica residency process, 100%, I'll share that. But the adoption process, I do want to share it in some way, but I don't want to turn my channel into an adoption in Costa Rica channel or an adoption family channel, right? There are plenty of people out there doing stuff like that. So I need to figure that out, but I don't need to figure it out ahead of time, I don't think. I can just play it by ear, share as little as possible, right? And then there's nothing to regret. If I share less, I think that's the safest way to do things. Share as little as you possibly can, and then I won't regret oversharing because the kid is a person who, I don't want to exploit. I don't want it to look like, or I don't want to commit the act of exploiting this kid because my channel is monetized, right? My videos make dough, and I don't want that to be a driver, right? A driving factor of what I do. So the answer is the residency. Oh yeah, I'm going to share that process. The adoption, a drop here or there.
When you announced, or you didn't really announce it, you sort of mentioned it casually that you were pursuing residency in Costa Rica. I was like, why Costa Rica? Why not Mexico? Because you're listing all the stuff and you're listening. I was like, Mexico has all of that. And then you were like, you know, the availability of single men
Uh-huh.
who are not short. I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, Mexico takes an L on that one. And then I don't know what the adoption rules are here. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, she wants to adopt. That makes sense. But I was really like, hold on. I know she likes
You took it
Mexico
personally.
a little bit. I was like, because I know like you don't want to live someplace cold. So no, I was like really struggling to put that together. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it now.
Costa Rica just gets me closer to the things that I want. I think I could possibly get those same things in Mexico, right? I just want to improve my odds as much as possible. So I'm 5'9", right? If I want a man, I want a man who's at least 5'9", 5'10". They're not available in Mexico. They don't come in that.
I am 5'6", and I'm not even sure why I am on the apps now. I don't even know why. And it is a struggle to find men who are taller than me, and I am 5'6".
They have the problem, right? They get married early, they don't get divorced, and they're small. It's just like
Yeah.
the perfect storm of no men. But right, there are men coming in all the time. So
Yeah.
just because a native Mexican man probably is not going to be the solution doesn't mean there's not the right one in Mexico.
All right. So we mentioned your YouTube channel. I highly doubt there is anybody watching or listening to this that doesn't know what your channel is or where they can find you online. But just in case.
Hello, new friend. My YouTube channel is Stephanie Perry, right? Very easy to find. I am a house sitter, so I talk about house sitting. I talk about bopping around as a digital nomad. I'm one of the co-creators of Exodus Summit, so I talk about moving abroad. The YouTube channel is a place where we get together with Adelia and we talk about the things that we want in our lives, and then we work on how to get those things. And I have guests who come on who are in various stages of doing just that, and they share information. It's a place where we come and share info. This is not a channel where I'm the expert on things, right? Like I said, we talk about moving abroad, and I've never moved abroad. I've never rented an apartment in another city. I've never rented an apartment, period, right? But it's a place where somebody has the information. That somebody is probably Adelia, okay? But somebody has the information that we need, and we get together and share it. I'm really proud of the platform. I'm really proud of the community that has sprung up out of that YouTube channel, because the internet can be a not nice place, right? But we have found the best people on the internet, right? The kindest, there cannot be a kinder, more loving, giving community on the internet. Can't be.
I would agree. I would agree. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for taking time away from your house sitting duties to come and talk to us today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. You are on I don't know if on a roll is the right phrase, because you've been on a roll, but you're doing amazing work, and you are changing lives. You give me credit for things that I don't deserve credit for, right? So I'm fine with taking credit for things, but you said the other day on your channel, you said, or on Rashida's video, you said people who know me because of Stephanie's channel. Not true, because you were out here doing this work while I was procrastinating and dragging my feet. You were out here talking to Black women about living their lives, living life on their own terms. So give yourself those accolades that you sometimes give to me. Give them to yourself. I hope that you can take some time and sit back and admire, appreciate, applaud yourself for what you've created, right? Because you did that. You did this. I haven't recorded one podcast episode for you. I haven't edited one thing. So I hope that you appreciate and acknowledge that work that you've done as well. So thank you. Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Stephanie, and I am really hopeful that the dreams you have for yourself, maybe that you don't even realize are dreams, or dreams that you've kind of chalked up as, well, it's too late for that, I can't do that. I hope hearing Stephanie speak light something up inside of you that makes you go back and revisit those things that you know you've always wanted, but for whatever reason, you felt like the ship had sailed, the time had passed. I hope something is sparked within you that you will go back and revisit those things, and you will pursue the things that will make you happy so that you can live a life with no regrets. Thank you so much for watching here on YouTube or listening on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those places. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you can, like this, share this with somebody you think might get some use from it. Leave a review if that's capable, if that's possible, wherever you are getting this episode. If you want to support the podcast financially, there is a link to buy me a hot chocolate or become a patron of the podcast. Until next time.